All right, today we're going to be talking about the SCP Foundation's groups of interest. Pretty straightforward, but it's just the organizations that the Foundation tends to interact with uh, that are larger than just a single individual, generally speaking. Alrighty, there we go. All right, file overview. The Foundation is not the only group with an interest and investment in the paranormal and metaphysical. There are many other groups in existence who possess, use, or attempt to create SCP objects, either for their own personal gain or for the protection of mankind. Some are rival organizations, some are splinter groups of the Foundation, and some are trusted associates of the Foundation. In any case, it has been deemed necessary to create and distribute a brief on what agencies the Foundation knows about and our stance toward them. Alexylva University. Very little is known about Alexylva University or its motives. Evidence appears to suggest that the organization exists in some sort of alternate universe in which Latin and Greek cultures maintain dominance, at least over the Western Hemisphere. Nothing to date is known about any other part of this world. All university-related objects have been found in the mid-southern United States, and more specifically, Tennessee, leading Foundation researchers to believe the university itself is located in that geographical area. Many objects associated with the university, which is not believed to have built the objects, are recovered during postal transit by an agency known as Fitransaman Combine and accompanied by relevant paperwork, which has helped shed light on the objects and the place from which they came. To date, all that is known about the methods that transfer the objects is that the technology uses principles similar to that of an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a concept considered purely theoretical by contemporary science. A particular section of the university, known as the Department of Natural Philosophy, is considered responsible for the transferences, possibly without the knowledge or consent of the rest of the organization. Ambrose Restaurants. Ambrose Restaurants is a large-scale chain of fine dining eateries located in various public locations across Earth, along with several locations in anomalous or extra-dimensional locations of interest. These restaurants specialize in anomalous food and culinary practices, and vary widely in variation and style. Despite the scale of the Ambrose Restaurants chain, they are generally non-hostile and will instead flee from threats directed toward them. Ambrose Restaurants is currently believed to be jointly owned by persons of interest Taz Ambrose and Marius, but due to lack of public appearances, this is unconfirmed. Notably, several groups of interest have engaged in relations with Ambrose Restaurants, including Marshall Carter and Dark Limited and Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting, though the extent with which they collaborate is unknown. As the Ambrose Restaurants chain continues to expand beyond anomalous markets, any new locations are to be shut down and valuable information on Ambrose Restaurants saved. Anderson Robotics. Based in the Pacific Northwest, Anderson Robotics first came to the Foundation's attention in 2007 with the capture of SCP-1360. Led by Vincent Anderson and specializing in the sale of anomalous androids, robots, artificial intelligences, and cybernetics, Anderson Robotics has quickly gained a fair amount of traction in the realm of paratechnology. The group's small size, remarkable espionage capabilities, and surprisingly large resource base has made apprehension of any Anderson employee difficult, with only a handful of Anderson products currently in the hands of the Foundation. So Anderson Robotics, from what I've seen of it in the interactions I've had with the Foundation Wiki, um, it tends to be that the SCP Foundation only ever really gets a hold of Anderson Robotics products that are either prototypes or have been like massively damaged in some way. which just speaks to like the scope and capabilities of Anderson Robotics, because even the Foundation has difficulty getting hold of any of their technology that isn't already diminished in some way. Yeah, yeah. All right. Arcadia. Defined by the highest highs and lowest lows, Arcadia was a rampage through the video game industry, driven by arcane occult technologies that relied on luck as much as demons, but they made it work. This popularity came at the expense of their customers' exploitation and damnation, without their knowledge, of course. All that slowed to a crawl, however, after the 1983 video game crash and the other world started collecting on unfulfilled promises. Their buyout by technologic powerhouse Prism Products Corporation in 1991 revitalized the Arcadia name, albeit under shady practices and behind closed doors. The Arcadia of today is an entirely different beast. Nobody is exactly sure what they do. Rumors are that rumors are the only knowledge most have, but some say their longtime rival, the FBI UIU, have more that they're not spilling. If you're curious, maybe find some Arcadia to play, because after all, why not Arcadia? I don't really know anything about Arcadia, so I won't weigh in. Are we cool yet? A collective of anomalous artists or anartists, members of Are We Cool Yet are capable of either obtaining or producing anomalous objects and entities, and using them to create art installations. These installations are placed for maximum public exposure and have been fatal to bystanders. The phrase, "Are we cool yet?" is always present in some way. These guys just suck. They are almost exclusively a bunch of pretentious, like massively pretentious assholes, and just by nature of the existence of their things, theoretically, they're trying to teach people how to better appreciate art, but it's all so far up its own ass, like in almost every situation that it's, yeah, it's, they, yeah, they suck. They suck so hard. The Black Queen. Very little conclusive information has been recovered about the person of interest called the Black Queen. She claims the given name Allison Chow, the name of the researchers of Dr. Blank Gears and blank blank Chow before Gears' recruitment by the Foundation. The Black Queen possesses unusual knowledge of Foundation structure and activities, and contained anomalies. Let's formatted that badly. The reason for this unusual knowledge has yet to be conclusively identified, but it appears to be gained partially through anomalous means, including the possibility of extra-universal information sources. She has repeatedly been able to breach Foundation security utilizing this information, in addition to classified anomalous means. Conflicting reports exist of the Black Queen's activities and motivations, likely due to multiple individuals or deliberate counterintelligence. Initial reports characterize her as malevolent, murderous, and destructive. Other reports characterize her as neutral, benevolent. All intelligence indicates her hostility toward the Foundation. There are reports of the Black Queen's involvement with most major groups of interest known to the Foundation, along with several world governments. Unverified sources claim that she is the same individual as LS, the Serpent's Hand, and that LS stands for Little Sister. The reason for this unusual close connection is possibly due to the Black Queen's use of the Wanderer's Library. Intelligence indicates the presence of multiple other individuals also calling themselves Black Queen. The nature and origin of these individuals is inconclusive. Again, not much interaction I've had with the Black Queen, so straightforward enough. Chaos Insurgency. The Chaos Insurgency is a splinter group of the Foundation, created by a rogue cell that went AWOL with several SCP objects in 1924. Since then, the insurgency has become a major player on the world stage, using the anomalies that it obtains for its own benefit and to consolidate its global power base. The insurgency not only deals in anomalies, but also in weapons running and intelligence gathering. It makes use of authoritarian regimes in poor and developing countries, often using their populations in the same manner as the Foundation does D-class personnel. It helps to maintain the extreme poverty and war that is suffered by these countries, so that it continue its radical experimentation, easy conscription of forces, and lucrative business deals with various opposing factions. Most of the anomalous objects possessed by the insurgency are unknown. Among the most notable items are the Staff of Hermes, an item capable of warping the physical and chemical properties of any matter it touches, and the Bell of Entropy, an object which causes a variety of destructive effects depending on where it is struck. Both of these objects were originally obtained at no small cost by the Foundation, and were stolen by the original founders of the insurgency. The SCP objects and other anomalies stolen from the Foundation typically possess high potential for direct utility, but the insurgency has also made use of anomalies with less direct applications, such as SCP-884. The main base of operations of the insurgency is unknown, as are its current leaders. This organization is directly antagonistic to the Foundation, using deadly force to attempt to prevent Foundation containment of multiple anomalies. The Foundation has also been infiltrated by agents of the insurgency in the past, resulting in the loss of valuable scientific data, theft of a number of anomalies, and deaths of personnel. Personnel are made to be aware of possible raids, terrorist action, and spies from the insurgency, and are to notify their superiors about any activities from fellow personnel fitting the insurgency behavioral profile. Chicago Spirit. During the early 20th century, the Chicago Spirit was the largest anomalous criminal organization in the Western Hemisphere. Based in Chicago, Illinois, the group's influence extended to most major cities in the United States, particularly New York, Boston, New Orleans, and the extra-dimensional city-state of Three Portlands. The Spirit was known for recruiting individuals with anomalous capabilities, as well as creating and exploiting anomalous artifacts for use in its criminal activities. The Spirit was founded in 1895 by Chicago resident and bar owner Richard D. Chappell, who was himself an anomalous individual. Despite years of efforts, the Foundation remained largely unsuccessful in its attempts to suppress Chappell's rise to power, due in part to its limited resources at the time as a result of ongoing internal crisis. In January of 1919, the Foundation officially suspended all opposition against the Chicago Spirit to ensure their cooperation in preventing the spread of SCP-2680. Once allowed to operate unimpeded, the Spirit flourished into a nationwide syndicate and eventually became a driving force in the illegal distribution of alcohol during the Prohibition era. Thanks to the success of its bootlegging businesses, the Chicago Spirit continued to amass power over North American markets and politics throughout the 1920s, and the Foundation was eventually forced to terminate its truce with the group in order to prevent the complete dissolution of scientific normalcy. On July 11, 1933, Richard Chappell was finally apprehended by the Foundation operatives during a raid on the Spirit's base of operations. In the absence of its leader, gradually destabilized, and most of its members and assets were acquired by other organizations. As of 1938, the Foundation officially considers the Chicago Spirit to be defunct. However, rumors of the Spirit's continued survival have persisted in subsequent decades. Various artifacts have been discovered which imply the group's involvement, though a conclusive link has yet to be proven. Furthermore, recent evidence has revealed the emergence of a new syndicate calling itself the Chicago Spectre, which seems to operate primarily in anomalous underground communities. Investigation into this group and its connections to the original Spirit, if any, are ongoing. All right. With the Chicago Spirit, tends to be they tend to have interactions with them that revolve around like SCPs that were found in during the Prohibition era, mostly. Um, they'll come across. Um, it will be it will be SCP objects whose acquisition was like 100 years ago, basically. You don't really see them in any of the interactions with modern day, as like modern, as in collected in the modern day SCP objects. We pretty much only see them if there was some interaction involving like the 1920s, more or less. So the Children of the Scarlet King. The Children of the Scarlet King are a series of churches, organizations, individuals, and movements associated with the pluripotent entity known as the Scarlet King. While the majority of children share a set of key beliefs, the nature of their organization, even their doctrine, varies greatly between manifestations. Discerning the children from mundane groups of interest has thus proven difficult for the Foundation. The true nature of the Scarlet King, or if it exists at all, is unknown. Children of the Scarlet King. Um, they come up relatively relatively frequently. You don't see a lot of different actual SCP objects that are associated with them. There's a few, certainly, but generally you see them in conflict either with the Foundation or um, with other uh, theocratic organizations. Um, seven. Seven is a big, like, recurring motif kind of across the whole of their mythos with the Scarlet King and everything. So it's there tends to be a lot of like repetition of like thematically, but not much in the way of like consistency really aside from that. So yeah, lots of things. All right. The Church of the Broken God. Shortly after the discovery and containment of SCP-882, several members of the Church came forward and demanded the return of the Heart of God. Led by one Robert Bumaro, they were a group of zealots, believing many of the SCP items to be parts of a god that was broken after the creation of the universe. By restoring it to its whole state, they will also gain godhood. Since first contact, three key components of the god have also been tentatively identified: SCP-217, SCP-271, and SCP-1139. They are extremely hostile to Foundation operatives, branding them heretics, and will attempt to kill operatives and break containment of SCP items. It is unknown how they are able to detect these items, but they have shown their ability to do so with frightening accuracy. In addition, they have shown remarkable ability to resist the mental effects of SCP items, notably SCP-882 and its mental lure. The Church is viewed as a threat to both the SCP Foundation and mankind. Members are to be detained by force or eliminated by whatever means deemed necessary by Foundation agents. So, the Church of the Broken God, you pretty much exclusively objects from them are mechanical in nature. Um, a number of them are like mechanical creatures, but every single one of them is mechanical in nature, and that is due to the nature of the broken god, as he is essentially a machine god that that broke at at the universe's creation, and uh, they they tend to like physically augment themselves and things like that in an effort to be closer to their god. Like the more mechanical they make themselves, the closer they are to the god. So yeah. Church of the Second Hytoth. The Church of the Second Hytoth is an occult organization of human and alien entities that adhere to the extraterrestrial Ortothon religion, aiming to aiming to aid a universal guardian dated Ramko Lusan in combat against extra-universal threats known as Wondertainment. The central beliefs of the religion are that the current universe, the second Hytoth, was preceded by a different universe, which used to exist until it was consumed by an extra-universal entity. A group of survivors fled to the newly created second Hytoth, our reality, with 7 of them choosing to ascend to godhood to ensure the universe's safety. 6 of these gods died over time, leaving Ramko Lusan as the last survivor. Operations taken by the church are performed under the veil, likely to avoid heavy scrutiny from normalcy organizations. The main language of the group is the Ortothon Extraterrestrial Language, OEL, which has been anomalously kept unchanged despite the distances between Ortothon sects. Group members attribute this to acts of divine intervention. Human Ortothon belief systems are known to have existed by around 11,000 BCE, corresponding to the formation of the ancient Ortothon kingdom civilization. Though modern branches have only been developed in the past century, Ortothon groups separate from the church exists, all being similarly significantly smaller in comparison and tending to have different moral beliefs. Beyond the church, the Ortothon religion has an interstellar and intergalactic presence, having initially emerged among extraterrestrial civilizations. Numerous such Ortothon civilizations are known to exist, and their full extent not yet ascertained. Among the largest of these is the Terzon II Ortothon Coalition, a collection of Ortothon entities residing in the globular cluster Terzan II, at war with the hostile 12 Stars civilization. The only Ortothon civilization known to have entered the solar system is the species of interest 002. It is presumed extinct. Ortothon religion is not one I have had any interaction with, so we will leave it alone for now. Commission on Unusual Cargo. One of a number of precursors to the Foundation as it exists today, the Commission on Unusual Cargo was established by the East India Company in 1623 for the purpose of containing and protecting its more peculiar cargo. It existed in this form until 1649, the year in which the group disappeared, along with all its assets, in response to a demand from the East India Company that they utilize the unusual cargo they had stockpiled to gain a military advantage against several large bands of privateers. Subsequently operating in secret, the Commission continued to collect objects and entities until its merger with the Foundation in 1917. A number of these anomalous items were transferred into the Foundation's possession, along with the cargo manifest describing the properties of and procedures for the state storage of this cargo. A vast record of anomalous history is still being reviewed and digitized by Foundation archivists. For as long as it was active, the Commission was headed by a merchant officer, the Right Honorable Nathaniel Trower. It is unclear if this was a single, anomalously long-lived individual or a series of multiple people using the same name. As the commissioner of the organization, he was overseen and advised by 8 members board of regents and commanded a large staff of wardens, curators, and other operatives. That is not one I have really had any interaction with, so we will move on. The Daevites. The information contained within this file cannot be authenticated with 100% certainty, due to the anomalous nature of content. As with as with all atemporal retrocausal anomalies, a healthy skepticism is recommended when discussing or researching information on the Devas. If, in reviewing this file, you notice inaccuracies or discrepancies with baseline reality, please report to your on-site RAISA representative, Maria Jones, Director, RAISA. So the Daevites, you generally see them. They have a lot of like blood sacrifice and stuff with their SCPs. Um, a lot of their artifacts tend to affect the past directly, um, generally with the intent of extending the life of the Daevite civilization. So it tends to be that their objects basically, when interacted with, basically affect the past directly and make it so that the civilization actually survived for longer than was previously known. So, yeah, you see them from time to time, but there's not a ton of stuff with them in it. Dear College. Dear College is a co-educational liberal arts and occult sciences college in the heart of scenic Three Portlands, an extra-dimensional city-state located adjacent to the American Northwest and southern England. With a curriculum that focuses on the marriage of mundane and occult disciplines and a well-regarded anarch program, Deer is often seen as the liberal arts counterpart to the GOC-sponsored rival across town, ICSUT Portland's. A number of prominent figures in the anomalous world are Deer alumni, including Vincent Anderson, CEO of Anderson Robotics, and Esther Lesbian Gengar Kogan, one of the co-founders of Gamers Against Weed. Also suck. As the Foundation operations in Three Portlands are heavily restricted by a number of agreements with the FBI's Unusual Incidents Unit, Deer College itself is relatively free of Foundation intervention. However, all Deer alumni are automatically marked as persons of interest and may be subject to increased Foundation scrutiny. Sorry. Body's being annoying. Again, not much interaction I've had with Deer University, so way in there. Dr. Wondertainment. Dr. Wondertainment, whether an individual or collective entity, is capable of producing anomalous artifacts and entities which thematically resemble children's toys. The nature of these objects and devices varies, although all were clearly intended to be utilized by children. In addition, Dr. Wondertainment is responsible for the creation of the Little Misters, anomalous humanoids altered for collectability. Dr. Dr. Wondertainment is known to have targeted Foundation personnel in the past, and their feelings toward the Foundation appear to be ambiguous. See the entry for Isabel Wondertainment on the personnel dossier for more information. Links to the factory have been speculated, but are unconfirmed. So, like it says, Dr. Wondertainment's products tend to be children's products. Um, there's a number of there's honestly Wondertainment has a lot of interactions. Kind of, there's some of the favorite like SCP articles for a lot of people. Um, their products don't tend to necessarily be dangerous. Some of them are, um, but a lot of them really are like safe for kids to interact with. It's just that they're uh, just by the very nature of what they are, they mess with baseline reality and like the things people know about the way science actually works. So they can't be allowed to be out there. All right. The factory. Little is known about the factory. Excursions into facilities purported to be operated by them have yielded limited results, and no concrete conclusions have been reached, except that they seem capable of manufacturing anomalous artifacts, and that they use mass production techniques to do so. Yeah. The factory, again, is another one that there's a pretty solid amount of interaction kind of across the board with the factory. Um, every single one of the factory's products is malicious. Period. They like every some of them seem mundane on the surface, but all of them are inherently detrimental to human life. So that's their big thing. All right. The fifth church. This church is to other churches what clowns are to people. There are some superficial similarities, but all the wrong things are being emphasized and exaggerated, so you can't quite put your finger on what is wrong. Sure, it isn't out to get you. What does it mean? Why is it there? What happens if it calls to you? Dr. Blank. The Fifth Church, also known as the Church of Fifism or the Fifthist Fellowship, is a highly secretive religious organization which possesses ties throughout the entertainment industry. Despite repeated investigations culminating in the 2007 nationwide sting known as Operation Stargazer, no further details regarding its doctrines, its practices, its number of members, or its goals have been confirmed, although a watch list is maintained of 100 confirmed and suspected Fifthist celebrities and other prominent personalities. Its origins have been placed in varying points in the mid-20th century, at various locations in North America and Asia, but some sources have dated it to centuries earlier. The Fifth Church has never communicated directly with the SCP Foundation, but is to be considered a hostile force. So, and this is making me think I'm correct. I believe the Fifthist Church uh, is one. Basically, they worship a giant starfish, um, a giant like extra dimensional starfish. Um, there's a lot of like conflicting reports of what they believe it actually does or like is or does for them. Um, but yeah, so it's yeah, so it's fictional science. It's slightly more fictional Scientology. All right, Gamers Against Weed. Gamers Against Weed is a loosely organized confederation of anomalous individuals as well as associates thereof. Produce or procure anomalous anomalies for satirical purposes and or for their own amusement. More recently, however, there have been implications in they have sorry they have also been implicated in supplying anomalies to left-wing political organizations. While Gamers Against Weed organizes itself into its activities primarily over internet channels, several real-world locations associated with the group have been identified and rated. Current intelligence suggests that Gamers Against Weed is in the process of creating and distributing a set of anomalous humanoids to parody Dr. Wondertainment's Little Misters series, and that it is aware of the Foundation's operations, if not its exact nature. Detainment of Gamers Against Weed members has proven more difficult than anticipated. Some of the group's organizers are believed to possess reality-altering capabilities, either in their own right or through access to outside resources. Current operations are focused on the containment of related anomalies and the identification and analysis of Gamers Against Weed's most dangerous members. Gamers Against Weed suck ass. Um, they're just like an inherently detrimental organization. They're it's basically like 4chan with superpowers. So I think you all understand how dangerous that is. Um, so yeah, there's not okay, there's a bit of interaction. Like some of them are pretty chill, but like for the most part, they're just kind of like shitheads. All right. The Global Occult Coalition. The, the GOC was created in the aftermath of World War II from the remnants of defecting occultists, psychics, priests, and scientists from Nazi, Soviet, and Allied states, brought together and formed by the Allies. As the world stage broadened, so too did the number of countries that had their hands in the GOC, until it became what it is today. The GOC are a largely political force, seeing themselves as the police of the paranormal world. They pride themselves on destroying supernatural entities and make use of the most high-tech experimental technology possible, obtained from their benefactors. Many potential SCPs have been destroyed by them before the Foundation could obtain and contain them. They have they've been both on the side of the Foundation. They have been both on the side of the Foundation and against it at times, depending on the situation. But they largely hold the Foundation in contempt for their use and containment of SCP items, rather than their out and out destruction. The GOC has respected the Foundation's formidable might enough to leave it mostly alone, although there have been some questionable incidents with which the GOC have strictly denied involvement. Agents of the GOC are to be treated with suspicion. The GOC, yeah, you'll see them periodically. You don't tend to see too much of like when they hand an object over to the Foundation and stuff like that, which some of the other organizations do, because they tend to just try and destroy everything. But there's a few different ones where they've either recovered objects from the GOC or where they've had skirmishes directly with the GOC, and yeah, so you'll see them periodically, but they don't have uh, quite so expansive. Like they're a large organization, don't get me wrong, but like their influence within the SCP, like the Foundation wiki stuff, isn't too widespread, realistically speaking. All right. Goldbaker-Reinz Ltd. Goldbaker-Reinz Ltd. is one of the foremost insurance providers for the anomalous world. It provides insurance to both individuals and institutions, as well as reinsurance, data vending, risk analysis, and forensic and enforcement services. It is known throughout the anomalous world for always honoring the letter of its contracts in good faith. It holds a seat on the Global Occult Coalition's foundation of 108 due to the trust its predecessors gained from substantial recovery services provided in the wake of the Seventh Occult War, and it continues to provide services to the GOC, the Foundation, and many more. The modern incarnation of Goldbaker-Reinz merged from Goldbaker Limited, led by the enigmatic Goldbaker, and the Reinz Group, led by Werner Reinz, in 1981. After other founding members of the Reinz Group vanished in mysterious circumstances. Sorry. The origin and full history of Goldbaker are lost to time, though individuals with similar titles or names have been providing similar services stretching back to the dawn of human civilization, and possibly beyond. The Foundation has a number of outstanding contracts with Goldbaker-Reinz. Policies range from the mundane, such as standard personnel insurance, health insurance. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That explains why I read that wrong because that sentence doesn't make any sense. Okay. Such as standard personnel health and life insurance, to the largely financial, such as providing beryllium bronze and other materials at fixed prices in the event of a containment failure, to the rare and exotic, such as procurement of oxygenating algae in the event of a GH class dead greenhouse scenario. A number of these policies are redundant with the Foundation's own contingencies, but two such risk-averse groups But for two such risk-averse groups, such redundancy proves reassuring. These contracts were entered into in good faith but the Foundation also views them as a means of maintaining an accurate and up-to-date understanding of the inner workings of Goldbaker-Reinz. The Foundation is cognizant of Goldbaker-Reinz's position of power within the anomalous world, so the goal of contract negotiations is to minimize the money and information given while maximizing the coverage and information received. Despite this perennial game of cat and mouse, the Foundation and Goldbaker-Reinz still consider each other trustworthy, at least enough to conduct business. I haven't seen much interaction with Goldbaker-Reinz. I think I might have seen like one. It's a really interesting one, but for the most part, haven't seen much in the way of interaction with them. So, Greazeburger Incorporated. I know you're watching. You're looking for something to read, aren't you? I wish I could read. I can't do anything else either. I'm stuck here, warped into just a few sorry bundles of information designed to advertise the people who made me this way. Greazeburger Incorporated, that merry bunch. I used to be a salesman for them, before I fucked up and got turned into whatever this paragraph is. It was the happiest time of my life, and I just didn't know it. I even had the classic getup, dress shirt with striped suspenders, a straw boater, even shoes shined so much I could see my toothy grin in them if the sun hits them right. I don't have any of that now. Not since I flushed my dream sail down the toilet. All I have is this space on the page, right here, and just a few sentences of space to lure in new customers to the Greazeburger literary universe. And that's it. Have fun reading. Jimmy Grease, salesman extraordinaire. Literally never interacted with Greazeburger before, so can't tell you anything. GRU Division P, originally known as or the Fourth Department Abnormal Occurrences Commission. It was established in early 1935 by direct decree of J.V. Stalin. Its first task being the investigation of the murder of S.M. Kirov. During World War II, the commission expanded into the newly reorganized GRU as Division P, Psychotronics, working to counteract anomalous threats from the SS, Ahnenerbe, and the Vatican, and to capture and study anomalous artifacts both at home and abroad for the benefit of the Soviet government. Division P has carried on this role throughout the Cold War, making Foundation operations in the countries of the Comintern difficult. After 1991, rapid restructuring, coupled with budget cuts and the decommissioning or sale of significant assets, resulted in numerous sorry, defections of their personnel. A significant portion of both the Chaos Insurgency and MC&D operatives in Eastern Europe originated from the GRU Division P ranks, and the flooding of the European black market with anomalous items formerly in their possession. Currently, this group of interests poses little direct threat to the Foundation. Haven't seen much interaction with them, so not much to weigh in on. Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting. Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting is purported to be a circus of anomalous origin and purpose. Currently, there is no evidence that this group exists beyond the allegations of various sapient SCPs and a handful of damaged non-anomalous artifacts. Most related objects typified by humanoid status utilize anomalous deformities for the sake of their performance in some way, such as SCP-1884 and SCP-2902. Others appear to be typical fairground objets d'art, such as SCP-1921, or take the form of attractions for the show, such as SCP-3717 or SCP-1695. Typically, objects related to Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting are found at fairgrounds where the show is said to have performed. Circus of the Disquieting tends to have, uh, I mean, as its name would suggest, circus-themed anomalies, whether that's clowns or freak show acts or calliopes, or like calliope music is what tends to play at carnivals and circuses. Um, but yeah, so there's a lot of different, like a bunch of different like kinds of things because they're like freak show anomalies and things like that tend to be pretty varied. So a, a large number of them are anomalous entities as opposed to objects, but they do still have a few anomalous objects. So the Horizon Initiative. The Horizon Initiative is an organization created in the late 1960s by various influential sects in the three main Abrahamic religions as a response to the growing number of anomalous activities and groups which they had perceived as threats. Though the full extent of their goals is uncertain, the Horizon Initiative is known to target SCP objects, either with the intention of retrieving or destroying them, depending on each item's perceived place in their dogma. The initiative is led by a tribunal composed of leaders from the three largest sects involved in its creation, though a large amount of internal strife often leaves the official leadership in less than full control of the organization. The HI's main combat force, Project Malleus, is generally deployed in anti-cult operations and in SCP retrieval operations. The initiative's relations with most other groups of interest and the Foundation seems to be in a state of constant flux, while all parts of the HI perceive the Church of the Broken God and Fifth Church with a great degree of hostility, and at times engaging them in armed conflict. Sentiment toward the Foundation and the GOC varies greatly, from open hostility to a limited willingness to cooperate, depending on the internal affiliation of the individual members. You don't see the Horizon Initiative too much. They're usually kind of mentioned in passing, if they're mentioned at all. Uh, but I'm sure we'll come across some that are more directly associated with them. The IJAMEA, the Imperial Japanese Anomalous Matters Examination Agency, or IJAMEA, not to be confused with the Foundation precursor, IGAMEA, the Imperial German Anomalous Matters Examination Agency, was Japan's official and primary anomaly agency in the period from the Meiji Restoration in 1868 until the end of World War II in 1945. IJAMEA was founded with the purpose to bring Japan up to speed with Western esoteric research, acting as a modern counterpart to pre-existing so-called primitive groups. In this capacity, the IJAMEA cataloged hundreds of different anomalies spread throughout Japan and her colonies, conducted extensive research on these, and undertook numerous projects aiming to utilize the anomalous for the greater good of the fledgling empire. IJAMEA saw its most significant role during World War II, when it attempted to weaponize several anomalies to assist military forces in the war against the Allies. Rushed planning and insufficient funds, however, resulted in few of these programs bearing fruit. The IJAMEA was formally disbanded with the Treaty of San Francisco in 1951, and most of its assets were either transferred to the GOC control or covertly acquired by the Foundation. However, imperial loyalists and Japanese nationalists within it kept IJAMEA alive in the post-war years, this time as a clandestine organization, during which its main focus was checking the spread of communist influence in Japan and East Asia. Today, it primarily serves to care for the well-being of Japan's diverse but faltering anomalous ecology, and supports various nationalist agendas with its ties to prominent politicians, business people, and cultural personalities throughout Japan. It seeks to return some political power to the imperial family and return Japan to great power status, and actively seeks to exploit the various anomalies in its possession for this purpose. The Foundation is seen as a foreign rival at best, and agents are to exercise due caution when interacting with IJAMEA personnel. Haven't really seen much interaction with them. There's a couple um, There's a couple I have seen. It tends to be uh, like creatures based on Japanese folklore and things like that. Um, Obviously, I don't want to give any specifics, but yeah, that tends to be the sort of thing uh, that you hear about in conjunction with them. But since they're located in Japan and the SCP Foundation primarily acts within the North America, you don't they don't come up very often. All right, on to just girly things. Just Girly Things is an anomalous internet blog focused on encouraging girls to partake in traditionally feminine aesthetics and activities. The website went online in 2010 after beginning as a magazine in 2006 and is inaccessible to any individual with a Y chromosome. The Just Girly Things website and other products associated with GOI 4319 exhibit a mimetic effect, compelling subjects with an XX karyotype. Join the group and adhere to its leader's conception of traditional gender roles for women, even when those directly conflict with the subject's prior political belief or gender identity. Members of Just Girly Things tend to exhibit manipulative behavior toward those around them, doing anything they can to spread the group's ideals more broadly. GOI 4319 is considered particularly dangerous due to its highly infectious nature. The founder of GOI 4319 is KOI 4319, a charismatic reality bander known as Keely. KOI 4319 has demonstrated a powerful ability to compel others to adopt its way of thinking through a combination of social manipulation and anomalous means. I've literally never seen anything from Just Girly Things. I don't think. So, all right. And that is where we're going to cut this for now. Um, the next part will upload as uh, a second video, basically, just because it takes so long to get through these. So we will split this one up into two and from there. So I hope you all enjoyed yourselves, and we'll be we'll be ending this stream here. So have a great night. Bye.